Our weekly live stream. My name is Alicia, and this week we are talking about how to talk to a doctor in English. This week's lesson is going to be very vocabulary focused. So I'm going to, number one, introduce key vocabulary words, some verbs and some nouns that you can use to explain your condition. Then we're going to practice some phrases you can use to explain your condition. And finally, we're going to talk about treatment, how to understand your doctor's recommendations. So those are our three main points for today. As you join, please send us a message in the chat to say hello. I see lots of people on YouTube. Hello there, everybody on YouTube. I'm okay. I don't need it. I got it. Thank you, though. I see a couple people on YouTube. I can see a couple people on Facebook, too. Diana and Nini, hello. I see a couple people on Facebook. Hi there. YouTube is there as well. I don't see names just yet because we're getting a few things set up. But we're going to start in about 2 minutes or so. So as we wait for other people to join, as always, quick announcement. As always, every week on Saturday, there is our Q&A. I talked about this last week a bit too. Our Q&A, this is called Ask Alicia, where questions from you get sent to me. I read them and I make answers for like, you know, just a quick explanation for those small questions, like not such a huge question, but really small questions. This was one about symbols that we use when we're writing online. So in this explanation, I talked about hashtags. But a quick reminder that if you have questions for Ask Alicia, you can just find the link from any episode of Ask Alicia on the English Class 101 YouTube and send questions from the question submission page if you have an account on the website. So if you want to participate in that, if you have a couple small questions, then you can send them to me there and I will review them. It may take some time. It may take some time to get to your question, but I do check them all. So if you want to send one, you can find one. You can find the link for that in any Ask Alicia video. Okay, I think we're all set up now. I see lots of people on YouTube. Hi, everybody. Rendell, Ashu, Ranielson, Emmett, Ariane, Ricardo, Tsar Nicholas. Wow, okay. And lots more people on Facebook, too. Osvaldo, Janaga, hello. Siegfried, S. Nemat, Arakan, Osama, Srey. Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for joining. As I said, today we're talking about how to talk to a doctor. And as always, we do have free stuff for everybody watching. You can find free PDF vocabulary and phrase sheets from the link below the video on YouTube or above the video on Facebook. Okay, I'm going to share the video and then I'm going to start the lesson. As I said earlier, today's lesson is going to be focused on 3 parts of visiting a doctor, 3 parts of the experience of visiting a doctor, and will be very vocabulary heavy. So let's get started. I want to begin on this part of the board. We're going to start with vocabulary words for this lesson. So I've made this list into like a group of verbs primarily, and then some nouns you'll need to know. So let's begin with this one right here. This verb, I think, is probably, I would say this is one point I hope you remember from this lesson. Sometimes I hear many learners say, like, I have a pain, or they say, like, I have a hurt, or something like that. This verb, this word, to hurt, we should use as a verb. Use it as a verb. I'll explain examples over here. To hurt and to injure have the same meaning, but injure sounds more formal. So when let's say, for example, I hit my arm against the board really hard. To describe that, I would say, I hurt my arm. I hurt my arm in everyday speech. If I use injure, it sounds more serious and it sounds more formal. We use injure, this is pronounced injure. We use injure for more like sports accidents, like the athlete injured his leg, for example. So for your everyday little accidents or for something small, use hurt as a verb, So we're going to talk about some examples a bit later. So hurt or injure. So this is very general. This can be any kind of accident, anything. So just a general accident, some kind of general problem. This next pair, however, this is more specific. This pair, this is to break, again, a verb, to break, and to fracture, So break and fracture. These words, they mean the same thing, yes, but these words are used for your bones, So if you don't know the word bone, it's the part of your body, like maybe you know the word skeleton, I don't know, inside your body, the structure of your body. So inside it, the hard thing inside your body. If you have an injury, if you hurt a bone, you might break your bone. So imagine this is like my arm and my wrist. I might break a bone. That's to break or to fracture. They are used in the same way, to break a bone or to fracture a bone. So we use these two verbs with bones. We don't use like, I don't know, stomach or something like that with this. We use this for bones, to break bones, to fracture bones. So again, same meaning. You will hear people use both of these words. I feel break is a little more common. In past tense, broke, past participle, broken. Okay, let's go then to the next verb, to itch, Please be careful with this verb. This is different from the verb to scratch, So what is the difference here? To itch, we use this in a sentence like, my arm itches, So that means my arm has an itchy feeling. Itchy is like, I want to scratch it. So to scratch is this motion. This is scratching, to scratch something. But to itch is the feeling. We use a verb to describe that feeling. Yes, we can use itchy as an adjective. Itchy, as in my arm is itchy. Yes, that's okay. Or my arm itches. We use it as a verb as well. So please be careful of the difference between this verb and this verb. To itch describes your condition, my arm itches. To scratch is this motion, I scratch my arm. So don't get those mixed up. Onward, let's go on then to a few nouns. I want to talk about some nouns, and we're going to practice using these in the second part of today's lesson. So the first one is spot. Spot is a very general word, again, a noun. We use to talk about any like dark area on your skin. So if there's, I'm not gonna draw with my marker, but if I had like a red mark on my body, I could say this is a spot. So usually a spot is like just a circle, just a simple circle, a spot. It can be big, it can be small. A spot, that is the noun, the word we use to describe this. Again, I will give more examples later. So I have a spot on my arm, or I have a spot on my face. A spot is the word we use. Let's compare this to this word, rash. Rash is the pronunciation. A rash is different, is quite different from a spot. A rash is usually like something red and something that itches. Well, sometimes it itches a bit, and it's usually kind of large. So if a spot is a small place on my arm here, a rash, imagine the same like red color all over my arm. And it's like this kind of pattern. A rash is maybe looks more like this all over, and it maybe itches a bit. We use rash to describe that condition. So I have a rash on my arm, or this rash itches, or this rash is itchy. We can use all of those to describe that. So spot, 1 point, rash is like this kind of larger area, usually like in a red color. Okay, Let's continue to this word, burn. Burn. I've marked this. Burn is used as both a noun and as a verb. A noun and a verb. Oh, Leah. Oh, nice question, Leah. I'll get to you. I'll come back to you, Leah. Thanks for that. Leah is our illustrator. Okay, burn is a noun or a verb. Burn is the injury you get, so I used it as a verb earlier, injure, is an injury you get from touching something hot. So if you touch a stove, like a hot stove, you touch it, you get burned, that's using it as a verb, or I have a burn on my hand. So I touch a hot stove, I have a burn on my hand, that's as a noun, or I burned my hand. So past tense burned, past tense burned. Leah's question, thanks for that, Leah. Leah asked about this word. Sorry, it's really hard to see. I'll write it again. It's not clear. Leah asked in the YouTube chat, what do you call the blue spots that come out when you bump into furniture? Nice one. Those are called bruises, bruises. So singular bruise, bruise. So that's like when you are, yeah, exactly. When you can't see my feet, but if you're walking into your sofa and your toe hits the corner of your sofa and it really hurts, and then your foot changes color, like blue or black or green, that's called a bruise. B-R-U-I-S-E, bruise, bruise. In the plural, bruises. I have bruises on my legs, or I have a bruise on my arm. We can use this as a verb too. I bruised my arm. I bruised my arm. Daniel in the YouTube chat, oh sorry, no, Daniel, you're on Facebook. Rash and something allergic can be the same thing. Yes, yes. So if you have an allergy, like a food allergy or an allergy to cats, this is another good word, allergy, an allergy, you may get a rash, yes. So you can have a rash as a reaction, Okay. Let's continue to the next one. The next one is chills, chills. I've put this together with fever, chills and fever. So maybe many of you know fever. So a fever means your body's temperature is high. Your body's temperature is very high. So like in the US, we use like about 98 degrees Fahrenheit. What is it in Celsius? 36 degrees, I think, is regular temperature. So a fever means your body temperature is high. Maybe you sweat, you feel really hot. Chills, on the other hand, chills, this is a noun. I'll mark this here. Chills, a noun, that's the feeling you have, like you're sick, yes, and you feel really cold. So maybe you have a fever sometimes, but you feel cold. So it's not cold in the room, but you are sick, you feel cold. We use chills with an S. This is not the plural form. We say, I have chills, I have chills. You could say, I don't know, we usually use it with this S. We don't usually say, I have a chill. We don't say that. We usually say, I have the chills. I have the chills. I'll talk about this again a bit later. All right. So fever, as I said, refers to high body temperature, Finally, the last word on this list is pain. I included pain here because it's a good general word. I talked about hurt as a verb up here. This is just a very general verb to describe pain or discomfort in your body. Pain, however, is used to talk about just a feeling, something that does not feel good in your body. So I have pain in my arm. I want to point out though, like you can use that pattern. I have pain in my arm, I have pain in my body part, but this is not as natural as hurt. Instead, I'll introduce some examples later. We use pain in front of the body part that is not happy, in front of the body part that is injured. For example, I have stomach pain, or I have lower back pain. So I'll share some examples of that in the future. But these are the key vocabulary words I want to talk about today. Yes, wafea on Facebook. Chills means you feel very cold. You feel very cold. Maybe it's not very cold, but because you are sick, you feel cold. So we'll practice some example sentences with these vocabulary words in just a moment. Okay, so with that, let's take a quick break. We don't have that camera today. Okay, we don't have that camera. So I will just show you a few examples of the free stuff as always. I don't think I have the hospital one. I believe that we have a hospital PDF from this, but I'm not sure if I have this one printed out. So I will show you some other good things you can find from the link below the video on YouTube or above the video on Facebook. So if you have not checked this out yet, today's topic is about doctors and hospitals and health and so on. Oh, that's zoomed in. Okay. But if you know that you have a gap in your vocabulary somewhere else, you can check out one of these PDFs that you can find from the link below the video on YouTube, above the video on Facebook. If you're watching on Instagram, please check YouTube or Facebook. There are many different topics. This is the food one. On the back, you can find lots of different phrases and vocabulary words that are specific to going to restaurants. So there's this one. Another good one here is traveling, going to the airport. So vocabulary for the airport, and then practice Q&A here in the middle for like immigration and passport control sections. So if you know you have a gap in your vocabulary or there's something you want to refresh yourself on, you can take a look at these PDFs, which you can get for free from EnglishClass101.com. So check these out. If you have an account, I saw this question last week. If you have an account on the website, you can just go to the website and download these from the link. If you do not have an account, you can make one for free and download these there too. So please check the link below the video or above the video to get these and download them. Okie dokie. Let's continue on then to the next part of today's lesson. Yeah, so you can find that someone asked below. If you're watching on YouTube, check the description box on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, check the description above, or if you're watching live on the chat, it's above the chat box on Facebook there. Okay, let's continue on. If you're just joining, we're talking about talking to a doctor with some key vocabulary words today. If you have not already, please make sure to like and share the video so other learners can find today's lesson. Okay, let's continue on then. I want to talk about phrases you can use to describe the details of your condition. So we talked about all of these words over here. Let's use them in sentences. And your task now is to send a comment. So in the chat, send a comment and describe your last illness or injury. So last here means your most recent one. So were you sick or did something happen to your body recently? For example, last February, I broke my wrist. Last February, I broke my wrist. That is true. Last February, I broke my wrist snowboarding. So describe your last illness or injury with a comment. Try to use today's vocabulary. I'll try to check throughout the lesson. So let's take a look. First, let's use the verbs hurt. Well, let's use hurt here. It's more natural. I talked about hurt to describe just a general injury. So I hurt my leg. I hurt my leg just means like I did something to my leg. Maybe I don't know what, like I have a mysterious injury, a mysterious pain. Maybe I ran into a table or something. You can't see the table. But if I want to just generally describe something, I use hurt. I hurt my leg, or I hurt my arm, or I hurt my head somehow. We can also use this pattern. My leg hurts. My leg hurts. So what's the difference here? In this sentence, My subject is I, me. So that means me. I'm responsible for my injury. I did something, and now my leg is not happy at all. In this example, though, my leg hurts. Maybe I don't know what happened. Maybe I woke up this morning and my leg hurts. I don't know why. What happened? So this is the difference here. If you are responsible or if someone else is responsible, you can use this pattern. If you don't really know, like, for example, my stomach hurts. So I didn't do anything, but my stomach hurts. You can use this pattern. Of course, you can change the subject. Like you could say like, he hurt my leg or like, he broke my arm. You can do that, yes. So please keep in mind, you can change the subject to give more information. Okay, Javier, why did you not add or use headache in your vocabulary? Because I believe many students watching today's lesson maybe know the word headache already. Okay, let's move on to this one. I broke my arm. I talked about broke or fracture. Fracture, this word, they mean the same thing. So break in past tense is broke. Fracture in past tense is fractured. Just a D at the end, fractured, fractured. So I broke my arm, or in my example, I broke my wrist. I broke my wrist. Or I broke my nose, or like he broke my nose. He punched me and he broke my nose. So to break is present tense, broke is past tense. I broke my arm. We talked about this verb, itches, itches. So you'll notice here, we use the body part just before the verb. And make sure you conjugate, so change itch to itches. It itches. My nose itches. My arm itches. My leg itches. My ear itches. Whatever. Itches, itches. I saw somebody wrote like my leg itches or something like that. It's gone now. That's okay. I saw it. Okay. So let's continue though. Let's practice using some of these nouns I talked about earlier though. I talked about spot, rash, burn, and chills. Okay. So first, I talked about spot. Remember, a spot is like a mark like this, usually kind of a round mark, a spot. So I could say, there's a spot on my shoulder. There's a spot on my shoulder. So that means, again, one like round place, a spot on my shoulder. I could use this, there's a rash on my leg, or there's a rash on my shoulder again. So a couple points here, things not to miss, this and this. These are things that learners often miss. I'm using the reduced forms here, so not there's spot or something. Make sure this there's a is clearly pronounced. So this theirs is there is, and this a spot. So in this example sentence, this is one spot, one only. If you want to talk about more, maybe you have 2 or 3, you can say there are spots. Use the plural. There are spots on my shoulder. There are spots on my shoulder. Same thing here. There's a rash on my leg. There's a rash on my leg. So rash, I suppose you could use the plural. You could say I have rashes, or there are rashes on my legs if you need to. But if the rash, if it's like really big, usually we just say, I have a huge rash. I have a big rash on my body. So we use rash and spot in this way. Good, nice examples. There is a spot on my shoulder, says someone. I have some spots on my hand. Good, yeah, Johan on YouTube used a different pattern, used I have. You can use the I have pattern. I have a spot on my hand. I have a rash on my leg. Perfect, nice, nice. Okay, let's continue to some other ones. Okay, let's continue to this one. I have a burn on my hand. I have a burn. So I talked about burn as a noun or as a verb. This is using it as a noun. I have a burn on my hand, or I burned my hand. Just as with this pattern, we would use burn in the place of broke here. So past tense burned, past tense burned. Okay, on to this one. I have chills, or you will also hear I have the chills. I have the chills. That describes that like cold feeling. It's not cold, but your body feels cold. I have the chills. I have the chills. Someone says, after a bruise on my leg, what word can I use when my leg expands outward? Nice question. The verb we use there is to swell. I will add that here after bruise. To swell. To swell means to become bigger. To become bigger. So we would say like my leg swelled. So in past tense, we take an ed ending for this verb. Sorry, swell, S-W-E-L-L. To swell means to get bigger. We also use the word swollen. This is an adjective form. My leg is swollen. My leg is swollen. My arm is swollen. My tongue is swollen. This is kind of a gross lesson. Okay, good. I have to continue because time is going quickly. Thanks for that question, though. Where was I? I have the chills, yes, when you feel cold. Last two here, I want to point out this verb. This expression is I'm running a degree fever. So sometimes we'll use just this pattern. I'm running a fever, which means I have a fever. But you will hear this running used to talk about that. I'm running a fever. My son is running a fever. Means he has a fever. So it doesn't have any relationship to jogging or running. It means it's happening now. Yes, someone says swell also means it's going good. That is correct, but this is also a different meaning. Okay, so to run a fever means to have a fever. Often we will include the degree for the fever. So I'm running a 101 degree fever if you use Fahrenheit, something like that. You can include that or just say I'm running a fever or I have a fever. Finally, there's pain in my lower back. There's pain in my lower back. This is a kind of basic pattern you can use if you want to. There's pain in my lower back. There's pain in my stomach. There's pain in my arm. Someone asked earlier, what's the difference between pain and ache? Pain is the more general word. Ache is used for like a low, constant pain. So for example, when your stomach doesn't feel good, it's like there's just this kind of constant, uncomfortable feeling. When we think of pain, often it's like a quick, like stabbing motion, like a knife pain almost. Like chest pain is like a knife maybe. But if you feel an ache, it's like a long, constant feeling. It doesn't stop, like a head ache. Or maybe you have a back ache. It's always going, it's constant. We use pain a little bit more often for like quick things, or sometimes we feel it like sharp pain. So that's the difference between pain and ache. Very generally speaking. Okay, I have to go quickly to our last points for today. Just a couple expressions for treatment. So treatment, this is a noun. This means how to fix your illness, how to fix your injury. How to fix your injury is a treatment. So medicine. So a key point here is the verb take. We use the verb take. I've got this note here. We use the verb take for pills or for liquid. So that means medicine you have to swallow. We use take. Some languages use drink. Maybe some use eat. We use take. So take this medicine with every meal. Take this medicine with every meal. This is a common treatment plan. So that means when you eat breakfast, take the medicine. When you eat lunch, take the medicine. When you eat dinner, take the medicine. Every meal. So a meal is the breakfast, lunch, dinner. So take this medicine with every meal, or just the doctor may say, take this with every meal. Another expression you might hear is take this once a day. take this twice a day, or take this 3 times a day, whatever. So once, 1 time, twice, 2 times, 3 times, and so on. So these are common treatment plans for medicine. You may also hear something like this: take 2 of these in the morning. Take 2 of these in the morning. 2 of these means of these pills. So usually a doctor will give it to you, or a pharmacist will give you medicine and say, take 2 of these pills in the morning. Okay, another expression you might hear is come back in a week for a checkup, or come back in a month for a checkup. Come back means come back to the hospital, come back to the doctor's office for a checkup. So checkup means checking your condition. Come back in a week for a checkup, or come back and see me for a checkup. Why don't you use thrice instead of 3 times? Because it's extremely old-fashioned. It sounds totally old-fashioned. We don't use thrice in everyday English now. Okay, can I use I am suffering from a fever? You can, but it sounds way too formal. I am suffering from a fever sounds very formal. Instead, use I have a fever, or I'm running a fever. That sounds much more natural. Okay, last point. Sorry, everybody. Is this. I want to mention this verb here, apply, apply. So these are key verbs for medicine and for treatment. Apply, to apply. Past tense, applied, applied, and past participle, applied. Apply is used for like lotions and cream. So if you have a spot or a rash or a burn, you may receive as medicine a lotion or a cream or something. We don't use take. We use take for things we drink or eat. For lotions and creams, we use apply. For example, apply this cream every morning, or apply this cream twice a day. Apply this cream at night. So please use the verb apply when you're talking about those kinds of treatments. So those are a couple points to take away. So in recap for today, I would recommend you practice using hurt as a verb to describe your injuries, to describe your illnesses. And these are, I think, some good patterns to get you started talking about that. So if you know, like right now, like, there's something like I need to explain to a doctor, or maybe you just want to describe a recent injury, like a bruise, like I have one on my leg because I ran into my sofa, something like that. Just think about how you might explain that in English. And also think about these 2 verbs for medicine too. Okay, we have to finish for today though, so that was a lot. Wow, that was a lot of vocabulary, but I hope that that's helpful for you, and I hope that it's a little more information so you can describe things more clearly. Angel says, is the word painkillers old-fashioned? No, painkiller is normal. Usually we say, like, medicine is different from painkiller because painkiller has a specific job to stop pain, to kill pain. Maybe other medicines, just maybe there's no pain, but they have to fix like a virus or a bacteria. So there's no pain, but they have to fix it. So painkillers have a specific purpose, to kill pain. Okay. What do I need to do? Next week's lesson. Next week will be how to talk about your favorite music. I asked you on Instagram what you wanted to talk about, and some of you said music, like pop stars, your favorite pop stars, your favorite music, and so on. So next week I want to talk about, of course, your favorite artists and your favorite bands, but also talking about going to concerts and seeing live performances and so on. So please join us. That will be Wednesday, June 19th at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, June 19th, okay. So if you don't know your local time, please Google it and join us live then. And don't forget, if you haven't, make sure to grab your free stuff from the link below the video on YouTube, above the video on Facebook. You can get all of this stuff for free at EnglishClass101.com. So thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope that it was helpful. Thank you very much for liking and sharing the video too. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a nice weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.